Yes, people, welcome back to another episode of LBins. Hopefully you guys are all well. Please make sure you smash a like on the stream. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well if you are new. And of course, yes, in the chat for a share. I don't know how we're going to get on in this stream, guys, because I just had a Vindaloo curry like half an hour ago. It was probably a mistake that I'd done that like just before I streamed, but we did it anyway. We live on the edge. We live dangerously.
Love it.
Big up to Jay Blee. Big up to CJ, RSA. Big up to Imper. Owen Page, listen, we're dealing with it. We're here. Big up to Brand Holt, Sebastian, Ben L, Eric's here as well. Big up to Mank Ninja, Sevris, Brett's here, Jordan, Leoxicon, JSH is here as well. Big up to 22 or Toto, not sure. Big up to JTI, Andy, Az, Subhotty, Ben L still here, Leoxicon. Hopefully you guys are all well. Big up to Craig Party Time, giving us those big bomber exclusivas as well. Big up to Big Jam, Norman, MTS, and of course, the main man himself, Mr. L. Nobbins. How you doing, bro?
That's me. I'm doing good, man. I'm doing very good. A little bit under the weather, but that will not get me in the way of coming onto LBins and linking up and giving the people what they bloody want.
That is true. They do want this. They want it. They want it badly. They're thirsty for this show.
Desperate.
5 Premier League wins in a row.
Ooh.
I believe it's 9 wins in all competitions in a row.
Mm.
Things are looking good for us right now, Bray.
Yeah, look, the fabled Man City run, is it happening before our eyes? You know, it's happened the past few times we've been involved in title races, the inevitable sort of like 10 to 15 wins on the bounce, which pulls, City from the depths of the title race into leading the pack. We are currently in the middle of it seems. If it continues, we now have a relatively good run leading up to Anfield. I think there are still some tricky games, like away against Bournemouth, for example. However, we've had some very tricky games already overcome. Away against Everton, away against Brentford, and away against Newcastle. The next games, by comparison, are relatively favourable. Some tricky games thrown in there, but the bigger teams are mainly against at home. United, Chelsea, as I say, away against Bournemouth, but then we do play at home against another easier opposition leading up to Anfield. And for me, this is the perfect springboard to win every single game up until Anfield, really put the pressure on Liverpool. Maybe they can drop some points in that time and maybe get to Anfield in a position where we obviously not trying to lose the game, but maybe in a position where we can actually afford to lose the game. And because just from a mentality standpoint, it would be great knowing that we can go to Anfield and go, right, we don't have to get the win, or, a draw would be fine. Even a loss would be all right. Obviously not ideal. So yeah, it's a perfect opportunity to basically just do what Arsenal and Liverpool failed to do when we were going through the shitter and take the league by the scruff of the neck and go, right, we're winning it now. We gave you a chance. Now it's our turn.
Yeah, I completely agree. I said this morning on when I was doing my stream on More LB, second channel. I said, I think we need to win all our games because I think we need to put ourselves in a position where when we go to Anfield, if we lose, we're still top of the league. That's the dream scenario now. Exactly. And of course, it is possible. Listen, we'll be top of the league if we win our game in hand by a point, I believe. So, they only need to drop one game. And of course, like if you look at Liverpool's fixtures, and of course, who knows what's going to happen, because this is the thing. Are Liverpool Liverpool have not had a really City have had their drop off, Arsenal have had their drop off. Liverpool haven't really had one, to be honest with you. So surely you'd expect them to go through one. Liverpool have got these are Liverpool's fixtures before the City game. So they got Burnley at home. Now they're probably going to win that one, but hopefully Vincent Kompany can do something. Brentford away. Have to see what happens there. Luton, they'll probably beat them at home. If it was away, then maybe a little bit different. Forest away, that could be tricky. And then it's the City game. So they've actually only got 4 Premier League games, which is a little bit frustrating. To be honest with you, they're probably going to win all those games, I reckon. But who knows? There could be a slip-up in there. Forest is not an easy place to go. Brentford is not an easy place to go. Luton are actually a good side and difficult to beat. But because it's at Anfield, I expect them to win. So, yeah, hopefully we can put ourselves in a position where if Liverpool drop points, we win on our games. And when we go to Anfield, boom, we've got a loss in the bank and still be top of the table. Because you've got to deal with the fact that we don't really win at Anfield. So you've got to go off the historical results. And that means that we're probably going to take a L or a draw there just because it's a difficult place to play football. But listen, we do seem to be in a little bit of a groove. Things are not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Let's not kid ourselves. But things are a lot better than they were earlier on in a season when we was really kind of struggling. We're scoring goals. On another day yesterday, we probably could have scored a few more. The keeper made some decent saves, and maybe our finishing could have improved ever so slightly. Still have issues with defence. We'll speak about that later on in the show. But things are going, and of course, as well, the biggest one for me is the fact that we've got a full squad fit. I mean,
For
this
the
is
first time this season.
not had this all season. Yesterday was the first time we had a full fit squad. I mean, this is big for Pep Gvardiol, and having a squad that he can change and he can be flexible with players. We've needed this all season.
Yeah, definitely. It's been great to see, you know, our academy players on the bench, you know, and you know, to see the depth that we do have there, you know, players like Hamilton, for example. But if you're in a Premier League title run and you really do want that security of going, right, the game's not going well, what can we do? Oh, we can bring on Doku. We need more defensive solidity. We can bring on Stones. We can bring on Kovacic. We can bring on whoever. Yeah, absolutely. And it is mental that it's the first time this season, and it's been injuries to such key players, De Bruyne, Haaland, you know, two of our best players, Akanji, one of our best defenders over the past season, and a bit. John Stones, obviously integral to how we play football, and is the key, the glue to our system. Hasn't been available for so long. Having these players back is genuinely invaluable, and just like stuff like rounding off that point we were making earlier about City need to be in that strong position at Anfield. It's sort of like Arsenal did the exact opposite last season. Leading up to the Etihad game, they were in a position where they could afford to lose. And then they drew against Liverpool and West Ham. And they was like, okay, we can still afford to draw at the Etihad. And then they drew against, or lost against Southampton. And it was like, right, now we need to go to the Etihad and win. And I think the pressure got to them and they crumbled, and we obviously battered them. So we can't. I don't think we'll crumble in a similar way, even if that did happen. But the point remains that we can't afford to put ourselves in a position where it's a must-win game at Anfield, because that is just asking for trouble.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you know, because like you say, that was one of the problems that Arsenal had last year. They had to come to the Etihad Stadium and beat us, and we'd already beaten them twice by that point. So you know, you're putting yourself in a difficult situation. I've just done the maths. Yeah, City need to win. City need to win all our games really now until the Liverpool game for me. You know what I mean? We need to pass that, because I don't see Liverpool dropping points in any of those. They could. This is not the easiest places to play, and got some tricky games, but I think they'll probably win all those games now. Of course, it all depends though, because like I say, Liverpool have not had their drop off yet. Now they might not have one. They might not have one, and then they'll go on and win the league, and that's why they do it. But you'd expect them to have a drop off at some point this season. But yeah, listen, things are in a good position right now. If we take a look at the Premier League table, City are up into second spot, level on points with Arsenal, of course. We have got a game in hand on Arsenal as well, so that is good, because we've effectively got a loss in the bank there, but still be above them, which is nice. Liverpool, obviously, we've got a little bit of work to do, but still have a game in hand there as well. And it's against Brentford. It's at home as well, which is decent. So hopefully we can get the win there. But things are looking decent. Goal difference is something that I think we need to try and work on ever so slightly. Of course, if you do win your next game, then we'll be above Liverpool on goal difference anyway, because then it goes to goals for. But really, we need a game soon where we just tan someone 4-5, 6-0, something like that, because we've not really had one of those this year, have we?
No, I thought that was going to be the Burnley game, but then we very disappointingly gave away a silly goal at the last minute. Yeah, you're right.
Absolutely. We want to speak about Phil Foden before we do. Big up to Piplup with the super chats, and the fact that Carson didn't start is a disgrace.
Outrageous.
Piplup with the super chat. Big up. Big up Cooler says, hello guys, City won't win anything defending like that. Have some of the defensive problems are structural, and some of the players are just off form, says Cooler with a super chat. Interesting comment. I'm going to come on to that later on in the show. We'll speak about Foden, and we'll come on to the defense. But big up for the super chat. Norman says, who's been our best defender this season? For me, it's Nathan Ake, but I'm not sure. We've been very shaky defensively. For me, Ake or Akanji. I don't think there's much in it.
I'd give it Akanji just because Ake's made a couple of errors which have led to goals. I think of the Wolves game. We'll talk about the Brentford goal. I can't, apart from the Leipzig error, I can't think of many mistakes Akanji's made, to be fair.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's just that one against whoever we played in the Champions League. Leipzig. Big up to Vinay, says we're moving from control to take on wingers with Savio signing. What change does Pep wants to bring? We spoke about this a little bit on More LB this morning, bro. The fact that is Pep Guardiola looking to change the style of the play because he's gone from Grealish's, Mahrez's, Bernardo's, and obviously you'd expect Bernardo to leave in the summer with the buyout clause to players like Doku. Now we're signing Savio. Are we starting to change maybe back to the style that we had when we had Sane and Sterling, where it was very fast to get the ball in the box? Maybe you want that with a striker like Haaland because you want to get balls into the box early. So it's certainly an interesting one. And big up to Sai as well. Big up both. No, Rodri would crumble us at Anfield, but I can't even think about that because that would be disgusting. But you're getting ready for the Copenhagen game next week, buddy. Right, let's get on to the man, Phil Foden. Absolutely magnificent last night, Nobbins.
Yeah.
I said it when we was 1-0 down in my watch along. I said, listen, give the ball to Phil Foden because you could tell that Phil Foden yesterday meant business. You could tell even at 1-0 down. He was sublime. Get him in that middle. I feel like justification all these years, people have been saying, myself and other people have been saying, get him in the middle, get him in the middle, get him in the middle. I've been having to deal with people who said, nah, I don't think he's good enough to play in the middle. We're finally seeing this season that he is good enough to play in the middle. I had no doubts about this, by the way, absolutely no doubts, but I had to just justify it to people. Hat-trick yesterday. He's having his best season for Manchester City this season that he's ever had. He's probably been Manchester City's best player this year as well. He's on fire, mate.
He is. And there's not many players in the Premier League who've been better than him this season. I'd struggle to think of, another 4 or 5 who've been better than him, to be honest. For me, he is definitely City's best player. I know people will say Rodri, that's fine. I would argue Rodri's our most important player, but I would argue Foden has actually been our best. Yeah, and the game yesterday was interesting because before the goal, we weren't really finding him as much as I wanted us to. Like my chat noted that, Foden's been a bit absent so far. Like we haven't really seen much of him in terms of touches, but what a surprise. As we know, as soon as you give Foden the ball and you try to find him, he makes things happen. And sure, the first goal, you can say it's a little bit fortunate, but I would argue, well, it's intelligent positioning by Foden. He gambles on Brentford not clearing their lines, and he gambles on that ball falling to him, and he gets his rewards. I think the header was the one I was most impressed with because I don't think he scored a header since the Spurs game. So it was a really well taken, cushioned header, like a fantastic finish, and then obviously the hat trick goal, sort of reminiscent of his second against Leipzig, where he just takes the ball, just runs through the defense and just slots it in. A really mature performance everywhere on the pitch, really. Like if you look at his touch map, he's basically everywhere, and it's just shame on those people who thought that this guy wasn't a midfielder or couldn't play there. I've no idea where that narrative came from. They mustn't watch Foden, because even when he's playing out wide, you can look at it and go, well, this is a midfielder playing on the wings. This isn't a winger. This will never be an elite winger because that's not his skill set. That's not his profile. But put him in the middle and his game goes to the next level. And more importantly, City's game goes to the next level. This is a player who makes a world-class team better. And that is insane to do for an academy player who's a fan of the club as well. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's his second hat-trick now, ever. Ridiculous stuff. And it's not even the goals I was most impressed with. I was just impressed with his maturity and his overall game. And it's so good to see that Pep is coming up with systems and formations to get both De Bruyne and Foden in the middle. So, formations which I didn't even really consider that he would go for. But it's just really nice to see that Pep's got that confidence in him, because that's been a big thing. Again, the narrative's been, Pep doesn't trust him in the middle. He doesn't trust him. I think that trust has been paid back in abundance this season. He clearly thinks he's ready. Again, maybe not for the biggest games, like at Anfield. I doubt he'd do that. But away against Brentford is no easy task. So it's just really good to see that, again, Pep is willing and wanting to try to squeeze both of them into the same midfield and it be an optimal play as well.
There was something that he said there that I found really interesting. I'm gonna quiz you on that before we do it. Big up to LB with the super chat. Says he said you have the best away form in the league. I have just fact checked that, and it is
really
correct. Yeah, it's factually correct.
I guess we have been a little bit stinky at home this season compared to what we normally are. Yeah, we drew against Liverpool, Spurs, Palace.
Home table. To be fair, I've only played 10 games on the home table, but yeah, we're fifth on the home table. Yeah, we've drawn 3. We were still unbeaten, but drawn 3.
Yeah.
So yeah, big up. That is quite interesting. Yeah, I want to put you up on something that you just said there. You mentioned the word maturity, and this is quite interesting because when I spoke about Phil Foden yesterday when I was doing my player rating stream, I said yesterday wasn't just the goals, wasn't just the creative play that he did. He hardly lost the ball. He kept the ball so much, and towards the end of the game, when it was 2-1 up and 3-1 up, how many times did you just get the ball, give it back to Rodri, get the ball, give it back to Gvardiol, just kept things ticking over? I say him. It looks like he's starting to learn as well the slowing down the game part of the aspect and keeping the ball at the end, because of course we all know what happened against Crystal Palace. I thought you covered it very well in your video that you did that at the time. And obviously Pep Guardiola spoke about it since and said Phil Foden was gutted after that game because he realised that he could have kept the ball and we could have been in a different scenario. I remember speaking to you on LBins after that and saying short term bad, longer term, that was probably a good thing that happened because it sped him up and he realized quicker that he had to learn how to develop that aspect of his game. And last night, I really thought towards the end, in those last 10 minutes, you could really see that Phil Foden has learned that and has brought that part of his game onto him. And that was the only thing, really. If you listen to what Pep Guardiola said over the years, that's basically been why he's not played him in there. Now, that's not the only reason. The fact that we've had David Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, Ilkay Gundogan are the three main reasons that it's took him this long. But that's the reason he's been given as to why he's not played in there. Yesterday, that side of his game, and obviously you mentioned the word maturity, I thought was excellent.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely spot on. Also, without so on the ball, as you've covered, I totally agree, and also off the ball as well. Like he was, I mean, he's always done this really, but I was just impressed with it again yesterday, just providing that extra defensive edge and security to his back four when he's asked to play out wide. City wingers are tasked with a lot of defensive, pressing burden, and Foden's no slouch in that regard. It's a really promising development that we're seeing in his game. I think you're absolutely right with the Palace situation as well. Players learn from their mistakes. Foden will no one will know more so than Foden that he made that error. Guardiola will have obviously also told him that's what coaching is for. And we are, I think, seeing the development of Foden not into a 10, I think into a more all-round 8, a more all-round central midfielder. Obviously still, very good in terms of the offensive phase, but someone who long term will eventually be able to do what David Silva did in terms of being able to also off the ball, sit alongside, a defensive midfielder and form that, quote, double pivot, whatever term you want to use. That's the sort of player that I think that Pep is moulding Foden into, not an out-and-out offensive attacking midfielder, an out-and-out 10, but a more overall balanced 8, which I think is probably better for his game because he's already an incredibly versatile player, and that makes him invaluable for a City team, and for Pep, who is obsessed with his out of possession structure. Next season, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw consistently him being in midfield without the ball alongside Rodri, because he's demonstrating that level of maturity and defensive awareness in his game. Is brilliant to see.
Yeah, and just to back that up on the stats as well, he only misplaced 4 passes in the whole match and lost possession a total of 9 times, which for a player who's playing in the attacking positions, as you can see here from the heat map, and did play the full 90 minutes, and he's making key passes as well, so he's trying to make good passes. That is exceptional, so it's backed up. We can see it with the eye test. When we're watching the game, we can see that he's not losing the ball. And then when you go to the stats as well prove that he's not losing the ball. Adding to that the fact that he likes to get stuck in, he's making assists, he gets goals. We've got a brilliant player. We've always known we've had a brilliant player, but now he's finally in that midfield position. I'm looking for him to kick on now because I think he can be even better than what we saw last night. You know what I mean? I'm not saying he'll score hat-tricks every week. I'm saying, like, in terms of his impact on the game, I think he can create more chances and really become a dictator in that midfield. So I'm really looking forward to see the development of Phil Foden. It'll be interesting to see how we keep on utilising him as the season goes on, because, of course, you've got De Bruyne in there. You've got your Rodri playing a bit deeper, but then you've also got Phil Foden, Kovacic, Nunes. Yeah, you've got these players who need to get some minutes as well. And as well, Phil Foden's our second most played player this year in the Premier League. Well, in all competitions, actually. So when people say he's always on the bench, lies. Second most played player for Manchester City. Rational says, this is a super chat. It is also a request that you two discuss Savio immediately. Please, Lord. Well, first of all, big up for the super chat. Second of all, I've done a whole stream this morning on more LB, the second channel about Savio. But I will get your comments, Nobbins. Savio, well, Craig Party Time actually broke the news in the chat the other day. Fabrizio confirmed it yesterday. Savio to join Manchester City at the end of the season. Thoughts?
Brilliant. Really happy with it. It's linking it to the Foden discussion. It tells me that Gvardiol is maybe happy with the idea of Foden being in the midfield. Otherwise, he'd be looking to sign more central players rather than wide players. And he'd be, as I say, signing central players and then shifting Foden out to the wide areas. That's not happening. Really promising. He's obviously tearing it up with Girona. Two-sided winger. That's what we need. Very young. I think he's only 19 years old. So I don't know if he's going to be immediately shoved into the first team or whether he'll be sent out somewhere on loan or whether he's sort of like kept around the squad but not a mainstay immediately. I think that we'll also sign at least one more winger as well. I don't know who that would be, but I'd be surprised if we only signed one, especially if we're losing Bernardo Silva. But yeah, it's really promising and it's good to see. And I've heard a lot about Savio. Really exciting looking player, very promising prospect. And as we discussed earlier, a very different profile of wide player to your Grealishes, to your Mahrezes and Bernardos. More direct, more, as you mentioned, in that mould of Sterling, Sane. And certainly from an entertainment perspective, that's very good because whatever issues people may have with Doku or not, he's really fun to watch. So I think from a neutral perspective as well, Savio will be like a breath of fresh air. And yeah, I'm really excited to see him.
His crossing ability is absolutely wild, Savio's.
Yeah.
They play Real Madrid this Saturday. I'm going to do a watch along for it. 5:30 kickoff. It's going to be crazy, man. Obviously, it's Girona and Real Madrid battling at the top of La Liga to win the league. And Girona kind of need to win the game as well. So it'll be interesting to see that one. Big up Hussam. He's obviously crying about the referee in it.
Don't big up Hussam. Don't big up Hussam.
Don't big up Hussam.
He's a
big
fraud.
Big down Hussam. Yeah.
Yeah, small down.
Yeah, small town. Yeah, I want to bring this up on screen. I really like this thing that you do. I think it's real cool. This is a Excel document that Nobbins updates every game that Foden plays. And essentially what it's demonstrating is the touches. And effectively, the more Foden touches the ball, the more likely it is that we win the game. Now, there is an exception. The exception here is this Seville game, which he played City. He touched the ball 69. That's probably the highest, isn't it? I think that's the highest that he's touched the ball, which City didn't win. But all the other ones, I mean, look at it. Look at these here towards recently. 98, 56, 80, 77, 101, 70, and we'll win. And look at the goals and assists here as well. What this is showing, guys, yeah, and big up for Nobbins for doing this. He posted it on his Twitter after most games, is if you get Phil Foden involved in the football match, usually City win the game. Yeah.
Exactly. And the trend also shows us that if you get Foden on the ball and in midfield specifically, then City basically always win. He always has a very large number of key passes. He normally always registers at least a goal and assist. Look at the games where we've drawn or lost. Very few from the midfield. Against Arsenal and Villa, he was shoved out on the left. Against Wolves, out on the right. The draws against Chelsea, Liverpool, out on the right. Of course, there's an outlier in there, as you mentioned, the Sevilla game, the Palace game as well. But for the most part, the trend is get Foden on the ball, play him in midfield, and City win the game. Not only that, but he's nearly always City's best player on the pitch as well. And as I say, that the wins speak for themselves, the key passes, the goals, assists, all the green basically spells that for us and just demonstrates how special of a season he's having.
Yeah, no, he is. For me, this is his best season for Man City that he's ever had.
Easily.
And it's quite funny, actually, because I thought last season was quite a disappointing season for him. Even though he won a treble and he had some good moments, I just thought with that injury that he picked up midway through the season with his ankle,
yeah,
thought he didn't really play too well for a while and then sort of got good towards the end. But he
appendicitis as well.
Oh, yeah, he had the appendicitis, didn't he, when he went away with England. So it was just a bit very stop-start, didn't really have a fluid year. This year, he's been in the team pretty much every game. He's our second most played player of the season. And, yeah, I think he's been City's best player this year.
Definitely.
Big up to Sai, says Foden has many Premier League hat-tricks as Gerrard, Hazard, Mane and Bale. And he already had more Premier League titles, 5, than all these players combined. #legend, says Sai MCFC.
Mad.
Big up for the donation. Right, lad. I think we need to speak about it. It was a slight glitch on our performance yesterday, and it's been a bit of a glitch on our whole season, really. Defending.
Yeah.
Does Manchester City know what defending is? Do some of our players know what's going on? Is it a system issue? Is it players doing stupid mistakes? Are we just getting unlucky? What's your thoughts on City? Well, speak about last night's goal first of all, and then sort of wider. What's going on with our defending this year? Because it's really been below par.
It really has. I mean, I was one of the people, on my podcast, I discussed the prospect of, can City, match Chelsea's, infamous defensive record. And obviously we laugh at it now, but I think at the time it was a genuine question.
Of course it was, bro. We just went. We had a clean sheet to Inter Milan, clean sheet to Real Madrid at home, clean sheet to Bayern. You know what I mean? We were smashing teams left, right, and centre. And what did we do? All we did was sold Laporte and bought Gvardiol, and Laporte didn't even play last year. So yeah. It was a completely realistic conversation. Unfortunately, it's backfired. But I want to know why. What's going on?
Yeah. So I mean, I'll touch on the Brentford goal first of all, and then maybe like a wider issue, maybe. So the Brentford goal was very weird, obviously. It was very clever from Brentford because it was clearly something they've worked on the training ground. If you remember the Etihad game the game at the Etihad last season against Brentford, it was basically just pop the ball up to Tony, pin him on Akanji, win the second ball, and you'll score a goal. That's what happened, basically. Certainly for their first goal, Akanji could not deal with Ivan Toney. And we all knew that was going to be the issue, that Ivan Toney was going to be the danger man. He's coming back to Brentford with maybe a point to prove or whatever after his absence. And from the goal kick, from which you can't be offside, you can't be offside from a goal kick. So Brentford very intelligently positioned their players into offside positions because it was irrelevant because they couldn't be offside. Toney pins Ake. I think Gvardiol doesn't expect that to happen, and the ball just runs through to Morpé. Now, I think that both Gvardiol and Ake are at fault for that. I would personally argue that it's more Ake because I've no idea why he doesn't do what Ruben Diaz always does, and he's incredibly aggressive, Ruben Diaz. And he will jump. Sometimes he'll jump on top of the player. It will either result in winning the ball or a nothing foul, and he won't get booked for it. This is like Ruben Diaz's aggression. What Ake does is he allows himself to be pinned by Toney. And Toney doesn't even touch the ball; he just lets it roll. And then, as I say, I think Gvardiol isn't expecting that to happen, which I think is reasonable. And then Morpé runs in. So again, I think you could blame Gvardiol for not dropping back. I think maybe you could blame the whole City lineup for not dropping back, like maybe Rodri in particular. But in the first instance, I think I've got to question Ake. And to be fair, I also question the selection of Ake in this game. I love Ake, obviously, but I believe he's our shortest centre-half. I think he's relatively short. I think he's only, quote, only 6 foot. I was really amazed that Diaz and Stones didn't play because we knew what we were going to be up against Toney. That's exactly what Toney did. He pinned himself against Ake, who's physically stronger than, and then he just rolled the player. That's my sort of thoughts on it. I think you can blame both Ake and Gvardiol. I'd personally give it more like 60-40 to Ake Gvardiol, or maybe 70-30. One of those. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Okay, so could Ake be stronger here? Yeah, probably could be a little stronger there. Yeah, I think he's got to. You're probably right. He's got to take the ball out, but he's just dealing with Toney. Is Morpé his man? No. So then I think you've got a question for me. I think Rodri's getting away with it a little bit.
Yeah, maybe Rodri. Yeah,
because you didn't mention him, and no one in the chat last night mentioned him. He's right in front of him. He can see him running through. He should be there. He should be there pushing. I think Gvardiol's kind of stuck in no man's land in the sense that I think Toney was on his side initially. So he's probably thinking, I might have to challenge Toney here. But then Toney goes towards Ake. And he's probably like, shit, what do I do? Do I go with Toney? Well, Tony's going with Ake, and then he's seeing it. I think Gvardiol's a little bit stuck. But what I said yesterday on this one is, despite our defence being poor all season, I do think this isn't a particularly great example of defending. I do think this one's a little bit more... I think
it's a freak.
You kind of just have to give credit to Brentford here because, like you said before, they clearly worked on this on the training ground. It's a great move. Someone in the chat mentioned, are we a little bit too linear? You know what I mean? Like you said, you can't be offside. So why do we have just a flat line? Should we not have maybe one player a little bit just behind covering? So in case a player runs through, potentially, I'm not 100% sure. But last night's goal there, I kind of say Ake could do a little bit better. Gvardiol could do a little bit better. Rodri could do a lot better for me as well because he can see Mopai running through. Ultimately, I think that's probably more something that we need to work on on the training ground in terms of, like I say, having a player just slightly behind in case someone does run through. But at the same time, it's still not great defending, and we've not been great defensively all year. Now, there's difference because that last night for me wasn't individual errors, and we've seen Bozo moments. So, for example, if we look back at the Chelsea game where we drew 4-4, horrific Bozo moments everywhere. All our defenders making ridiculous mistakes. Gvardiol should have just kicked the ball out instead of messing around. Diaz, absolutely shocking. Walker didn't check the back post. The only player that come out of that game with his head held high was Akanji. Everyone else was pretty poor. Diaz, and I mentioned this last night. Last night, I thought that was one of his best games he's had in a long time. So that's positive. I think he's on the way back. Walker, I thought was very good. Ake was decent other than maybe that. And I thought Gvardiol, which we'll come on to, was okay on the whole, but I know a lot of people have their own opinions on that one. I think the defense is slowly but surely getting better, but it's still worrying because if we play like that when we get to the Real Madrids, the PSGs, the Bayern Munichs, we could be in serious trouble.
Yeah, definitely. I do think a big factor is the lack of John Stones. We've barely conceded when Stones has been in the team this season. I know Stones has barely been in the team himself, but it's not a coincidence that we just look so defensively secure with him in the team. We touched it before. He's one of the main reasons why we won the treble last season. We couldn't have done it without him and his ability to play the 3-2 system. There have been some systemic issues this season. Earlier in the season, Rodri was being left isolated on his own in the midfield, had no support. I think that has since been remedied. I haven't really noticed Rodri getting run over in the midfield anymore. So that issue has been resolved. A new issue has been introduced which I don't think has led to a goal yet. I don't think, but the new issue is the system that we're playing where we have our fullbacks as wingers, where Gvardiol and Walker play as the wingers. And it means that on the counter-attack, you are more easily exposed. And it means that it makes it... Our weakness already is counter-attacks, so it makes that weakness even more so. As I say, I can't really remember, because we've only just started doing it, so I can't remember a goal which has happened as a consequence of it. The biggest example I can think of is in the Newcastle game, when we went 2-1 down, and there was a moment, sort of like around the 40th minute, where Gvardiol is in the number 9 position, like he's in the box. Walker's just outside it. I think Doku gives the ball away, and with one ball, it's like Newcastle 2v2, and Isak gets a really good shot off, which Ortega has to save. So that's a new issue which has been introduced, but there's a reason for it being introduced, and it's about risk versus reward. So that's obviously a calculated risk from Pep. So yeah, long term we have to fix up, because the likes of Bayern, Real Madrid, whoever in the Champions League will punish us more so than like Brentford did yesterday. But I do think it is something which is more easily resolved just by getting the strongest personnel into the side, whether that's Stones in the back at the back or Stones moving up to sit alongside Rodri, and also just maybe like a bit of confidence as well. Like you touched on Ruben Diaz. Recently, he's been very good. I think against Spurs, he was very good. Against Brentford, very good. Compare that to his early performances when he was borderline poor. I do think that maybe those players were, as well, system issues, just going through a rough patch. And hopefully, with this winning run, if we can just iron out those silly errors, because that's what most of these are, silly errors. I don't think most of it's systemic. Then we will be back to the defensive solidity we had last season.
Travis is right, to be fair. Diaz did give the ball away a few times, one of which caused us a serious issue, but he also then made the block.
Yeah.
But I didn't say he's back to his best, by the way. I didn't say he's back to his best. I'd say he's getting better. He's better. You can't argue that, in fact, he's defo better now than he was a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, because he was I thought he was poor and I thought City fans protected him a lot. A lot of City fans didn't call it out, but he was poor. And another example, you just said then, you can't think of too many examples off the top of your head about when we obviously got this new system where our wing backs are playing as wing backs and they're getting forward, Gvardiol and Walker. The best one that I can remember is the game against Leipzig at home, where Diaz made the mistake. So it's not really the fault of Walker, because Walker's got nothing, and it's not really the fault of the system. If Diaz deals with the ball, the goal doesn't happen. But the fact is, if Walker was back in the position that he was playing last year, that goal wouldn't have happened because he would have been back. And then obviously Diaz made a mistake and they went through and scored. But listen, it's frustrating for a lot of people, because I feel sorry. I want to get your opinion on Gvardiol, because he's really becoming for me a player that's getting a lot of stick off City fans. I think unfairly.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's played well this season, and people are like calling him out for poor crossing, which you can do, fair enough. But at the end of the day, he is a centre-back, remember? So his crosses are not likely to be the best in the world. I think he's doing a job out there. I think Pep's clearly liking what he's doing. Otherwise, he wouldn't keep doing it. I think he's playing good. I'm enjoying watching him there. Do I think it's the best situation in the world? No. Would you rather have someone who can cross a ball? Yes. But he's come in as a centre-back. He's not even playing left-back anymore. He's playing left wing. Like, what's your take on Gvardiol, mate? Because he's getting a lot of criticism.
I think we discussed it last on the last LBins show as well. I'm convinced that people aren't watching the same games I'm watching. They're not watching the same player, because I think Gvardiol's been one of our best defenders this season. I'm not interested in, he did some bad crosses. Again, this is a centre-back. I don't think it's fair to judge him and critique him on his ability to cross from the left half space or from the left wing areas. I think he's doing a very good job. I think that it's the more subtle things that maybe people aren't noticing, like his on-ball ability in the build-up has been invaluable this season. I think against Brentford, that was maybe one of his best games from a tidiness and build-up perspective. Sure, bad crossing in the final third, whatever. I'm not going to have a go at him because he's a centre-back who's playing at left wing. I think that's a little bit unfair to judge him on that. People will, and I think this is mainly peddled by non-City fans, people will bring up one mistake he makes, which in fairness leads to a goal, for example, against Burnley. And it was his mistake, I accept that. But then they just ignore the body of great work that he's had prior to that. And I don't think that's fair to do. Again, what he's doing, I don't think you'd see on Match of the Day. I don't think it would get into like a highlights package like that. No,
it's not.
But it's sort of a similar thing to what Grealish does, where, again, it's not the sexiest or most noticeable thing, but it's still nevertheless incredibly valuable to the team and to the squad and to the structure. And again, I think he has been one of City's best defenders this season. I think he's been really good, invaluable. The fact he's able to play left wing, whether you like him there or not, means that someone like Foden can play centrally. So if you're praising Foden for playing centrally, you've therefore got to, in turn, praise the notion that Gvardiol is the reason why that's allowed to happen, because he's facilitating that. And without his ability to do that to a good standard, a good standard, this isn't like Walker at the start of the season where he was doing it, but to a poor standard. If Gvardiol couldn't do it, then we wouldn't see central Foden as good as he is doing. We wouldn't have that good structure generally. So yeah, I don't think it's fair to have a go with him like this. I think a lot of people are looking at the price tag and deciding that he should be as defensively solid as Van Dijk, and that's just flawed logic in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said there. I think he's a good player. I'm really enjoying him. Not the position that I thought we'd see him in, but I think he's doing a job out of that left-hand side. And I agree. I think people are not seeing the subtle things that he's doing on that left-hand side. The way he fizzes the ball into the midfield, man. You know what I mean? The way he fizzes the ball into the front line. You know what I mean? He does it really, really well. Defending is doing good as well. So listen, I just think people need to get off his back a little bit. If he was doing that bad, he wouldn't be playing.
Yeah,
exactly. If he was doing that bad, Pepper put Ake back on the left, and we'd be playing someone else in the centre back position. So I think we just need to get off his back a little bit, because I think he's doing well. Guys, make sure you drop a like on the stream if you've not done so already. 340 people tuned in. We're 5 people away. 5 from 200 likes. Please make sure you hit the thumbs up button if you've not done so already. Oh, this one's for you, because didn't you want
Whoa, Piplup. Let's not have a fight, mate. We can have both. We can have both. We can be greedy. Do not disrespect my boy like that.
Oh dear. Brand Holt says, I think we can still win the league and perhaps win the FA Cup despite the defensive errors. But if we want the Champions League as well, we must improve. Yeah, I think that's fair.
I still think we're the best team in the Champions League, to be honest.
I do as well. I watched Real Madrid again the other day, and I don't think. I mean, to be fair, they had a few players. I'll give them that, but more than the player, they had no defense and no Vinny Junior, so it's probably not a fair comparison. But even when I've watched them when they've had the full strength squad, I still think we're better than them. I think if they get Mbappe and they play him as a striker next year, different kettle of fish, because I think that's what they need. They need a striker. Since Benzema left, they need a striker. But I think this year we really need to focus, because I think after this year it's going to get a lot more difficult. Liverpool will be back in. Real Madrid are going to get Mbappe. You know, Bayern will continue to strengthen. The Italian teams are doing well. You know what I mean? So this is a great year for us to try and strike again on the Champions League. So I agree with that one. You know my thoughts on the FA Cup. I don't know why. Got a bad feeling about it. So yeah, listen, I think Gvardiol's doing all right, but listen, we'll see how he gets on as the season progresses through. We've got Everton coming up next, bro. 12:30 kickoff. If we win the game, we go top of the table temporarily until Liverpool play Burnley at 3:00, which we might be there on a pray along. We'll see. Everton have had a bit of a weird season, of course. They've been struck with the 10-point deduction. Once they got that, they did really well. Went on like a 4 or 5 match winning run, and everyone thought, why are you moaning about the 10 points? You don't want a transfer ban. You're being stupid. Take the 10 points. There's no chance you're going to get relegated. Since then, they proved why they're appealing it, because they're back in the relegation zone now. And Luton have a game in hand as well. Luton are above them with a game in hand. However,
Luton have been great this season, by the way.
Luton have been very good, man. Luton have been very, very good. Everton, however, last 3 games, 3 draws, including a last-minute equaliser against Spurs, a draw against Fulham, and a draw against Villa. So 3 decent sides. I rate all 3 of those sides, man. This ain't going to be a particularly easy game. It's at home. Hopefully we'll win. But you've seen there, our home form is not particularly great compared to some of the other teams. 12:30 kickoff. What's your thoughts about this game? Tough. It could be a tough test.
Yeah. I'm going to say the classic trope. There are no easy fixtures in the Premier League, all that stuff. Obviously, Everton they're in a position now where they are fighting for their lives, for their Premier League existence. We did take them to the sword, whatever term you want to say, at Everton. We should be beating them relatively comfortably. For me, it's all about, with Sean Dyche's teams, it's always about, can you get an early goal? If you can get an early goal, like as we did do against his Burnley sides for like the past however many years, then the floodgates open and we inevitably win 3, 4, 5-0, that sort of thing. But if it gets like half-time 0-0, that's when it gets a little bit shaky. That's when we've got to come out a bit more. That's when Everton will counterattack on us. So for me, it's one of those games. It's either going to be like 5-0 or 0-0. Does that make sense? Like it's good. It's gonna. I don't think it's gonna be in between. I think it's gonna be a battering or incredibly tight. I don't think it's gonna be sort of like a middling fixture.
They've got the best defense out of any team in the wow.
In the wow.
They've got the 5th best defense in the league.
Really? That's a bit mad.
Bro, am I tripping here? I'm going to have to get the table on the screen. Right? Goals against. Yeah? Everton. 30.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wow. That's very impressive.
They've got the joint 4th best defense in the league. What the hell, bro? How are you in the relegation zone? How are you in the relegation zone with the joint 5th best defense in the league?
That's the thing, that they should be 2 points behind Chelsea. Obviously, the things happened. Yeah.
Oh shit! Yeah, they'll be on 29. Oh yeah. That makes sense.
But yeah, so look, as I say, they're obviously not going to be and that's why I repeat, for the first goal, it's going to be tricky to break them down. It's not going to be easy. But once the first goal goes in and you get 1-0, and Everton are forced to come out of their shells, then you're like, right, now we can destroy them. Basically, because in respect to quality, we obviously outperform them in every area of the pitch. We now have a full strength squad. I'd love to see Stones start. Haaland looked a bit rusty against Brentford, so hopefully he will now I've got that rust off, and he'll be fully fit, and he'll be ready to score again, because he hasn't scored like a few months, has he? Because it's obviously been injured. So hopefully a perfect game for him to get 1, 2, 3 goals. Should have, absolutely. I'm going to try to put it down to rust. He's only just come back from injury. I'll be lenient on him. I do expect more from him, but I will be lenient. But I'm not going to be lenient anymore. He's had that game. He's had that error. He's had some minutes under his belt. Now he needs to start scoring again and popping them in the title running. Maybe Everton's a perfect opportunity to do that.
Potentially, I'm glad it's at home, to be honest with you. But then sometimes when you're at home, like teams will just come and sit on the edge of the penalty area when you go away, because they're at home and their fans are getting on them. They have to sort of like push out a little bit, so it can actually be not quite as simple as that sometimes. But listen, Everton need the points. Everton need the points big time. Who are Luton playing this weekend? They're playing Sheffield United, bro. That could be a bad weekend, because if we beat Everton, and Luton beat Sheffield United, Luton Town will go 4 points above Everton with a game in hand.
It's tight. It's tight in this Premier League.
Yeah, that is wild. And obviously City will go top of the table temporarily as well. So, this weekend's a big one. Bill to adapt in the chat. Good to see you, bro. Pipluck's come back and says he's not trying to start a fight, actually. He just prefers Savio. Nico Williams just feels like another Doku who goes 190 miles per hour, doesn't slow down.
I don't think I agree. I think Williams is more of a playmaker than you're giving him credit for, to be honest. That's why I like him.
Okay, fair enough.
He plays for Bilbao, and they're my Spanish team, so,
Oh, so you do have some bias involved in this, though?
Maybe.
No, not maybe. You do.
No, but genuinely, I do also think he is just like, he would be perfect for City as well, to be fair.
Okay, cool.
Well, it's not one or the other. Let's hoard them. Let's get all these wingers.
What do you think about that, Pipluck? Can we have them both? Can we have them both? Yeah, so City could go top of the table this weekend, which will be mint. I feel like we've not been top of the table for a while.
Probably like match week 1 or 2.
Yeah, it feels like a long time. Do you think Burnley could do anything this weekend? Or nah?
Isn't it at Anfield?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. No, sadly. It's a shame that the Canati suspension isn't really relevant.
What about Fofana, bro? Fofana, the new signing that Burnley have made. The striker.
Wow.
He got 2 goals on his debut. They were 2-0 down. He come back and scored 2 goals.
I know, but it's Anfield, man. Come on.
I know.
Sadly, it's going to be too far for Burnley. I think they're going to get peppered. Away against Forest, that's a more interesting fixture, I think. Because Forest aren't bad. Burnley, sadly, are. And it's at Anfield. If it was at Burnley, man might have more hope. But yeah, Anfield's just mad.
What you on? You were top when you win your first 6 games in 4 weeks. Oh yeah, true. I feel so.
That was ages ago though.
That does feel so long ago, that man. Until strangle that guy at Forest, and then our season just fell off a cliff, and then we've had to wrestle it back. It's ironic, yeah. It's ironic that fucking Rodri decided to wrestle someone and strangle him, and since then we have been wrestling to try and get our season back on track, and we finally seem to be getting it there. Pitbull says replace Doku with him, and I'm down.
That's magic. Just hoard them. They can all exist in the same squad. It's fine.
We have a 25-man squad, man. We have a 25-man squad.
Yeah, it's all good. But I'll just leave him, remember. So yeah. It's calm.
I know. Anything else going on this weekend? There's some good games on this weekend,
Who else is playing?
Let me get it up. So you've got City, obviously Everton. Then you've got the Tottenham versus Brighton.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Luton, Sheffield United, huge game at the bottom.
Oh, West Ham, Arsenal.
West Ham versus Arsenal.
Ooh.
Vincent Kompany's Burnley going to Anfield. Can Vinny Kompany do us a favour? Who knows? Probably not. Forest, Newcastle, because Newcastle just on TV all the time nowadays. I feel like they're on television every match.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Weird. Villa United.
Big one again, yeah.
And a mid-table clash, Palace versus Chelsea.
Yeah, some cheeky fixtures there. And look, I feel like we've maybe neglected the Arsenal talk, because obviously we're talking about Liverpool and that game. I understand, people say, well, we play Arsenal at the Etihad, so they're less of a threat, so obviously got less points than at Liverpool. But Arsenal are still in this title race. Look, I think they've proven that by beating Liverpool. And not only beating Liverpool, let's be honest, they humbled them and they battered them and they peppered them. It wasn't like when Arsenal beat City at the Emirates and it was a very tight game, and in my opinion, a draw would have been a fair result, only settled by a deflected effort. This was, as I say, a humbling. So I think that Arsenal will now know, right, we can mix it up with the big boys this season in the title race. There's no reason why we can't win this. So I think they've got a trickier run than Liverpool. Obviously, they're not going to be the favourites compared to Liverpool and City, but they've still absolutely got something to say in respect to this title race as well.
Yeah. No, I agree. Someone asked me yesterday, said Arsenal still in. I said 100% Arsenal still in the title race. But they're the same points as us, man. And they're 2 points behind Liverpool? How are you not saying they're in the title race? They're 100% in the title race. To be honest with you, like, even Villa are probably in the title race, man. Like, you know what I mean? They're only 5 points behind. Like, come on, let's be serious here. Any team that's within 5 points of the top of the table when there's still, 15, 16 games after whatever it is definitely still in the title race. So, yeah, Arsenal now just need to put a bit of a run together. They've won 3 in a row. They come up against West Ham away next week, which, of course, was the scene of the famous 2-2 Bukayo Saka missing the penalty as well there. So they need to get a result. West Ham have been in some poor form recently, though, but they've, I believe, Paqueta's back for this game.
That's big.
Yeah, apparently Paqueta's back, so that'll be big for them. But then they've got Burnley away. That should be a W, but I think they struggle at Burnley. I think they've got like a bit of poor record there. Then they've got Newcastle. So if they can get through these next 3 games, 3 Ws, yeah, they could potentially. They've got a couple of tricky games, but before they play City, these are the fixtures they've got. They've got West Ham away, tricky but doable. Burnley away, again tricky but doable. This is a big game. Newcastle at home. Then they've got Sheffield United, should be an easy W. Brentford at home should be an easy W. Chelsea at home should be an easy W. And then it's the City game. Wait, that's at the. Yeah, I thought it was away then. Yeah, then they've got the City game, which is obviously they're probably going to have to get a result there. So they need to put a bit of a run together. They're in the same situation as us at Anfield. Now, before we said we don't want to go to Anfield. Well, we want to be able to go to Anfield where if we lose, we're still top or like we're still in it. They need to put themselves in a position where if they come to the Etihad Stadium and lose, they're either top of the table or they're not out of it. You know what I mean? So it's good though. It's good. Listen, the Premier League this year is mint, man. All these fucking doomsday people say, "Oh, the Premier League's dying, mate. It's dying." What are you waffling about, man? Having the Premier League's great. You know what I mean? You got 4 teams in a title race. Yeah, Villa are clinging on for dear life, but they're still in it, right? The top 4 race is interesting. You've got a couple teams there, and obviously United is still creeping up, and you got at least 3 teams probably in a top 4 battle. You've got the European battle for Conference League is still on there. You got Chelsea giving us some interest in the mid-table situation. Teams like Wolves, who are a fantastic team. Really, really, really like the way that Wolves play football. I've said this for months, ever since they beat us. That they're doing really well. Relegation zone, pretty interesting because whilst it looked dead and buried, yeah, Everton have fell off. Luton have got a mad streak going, and Forest and Brentford have fallen off as well. So all these people coming out on these podcasts, these pundits saying the Premier League's dying. Yeah, what are you talking about, man? Premier League's well and alive and kicking.
It's just lazy, isn't it? Like, I mean, it's a totally different subject, but, people say, oh, City making it boring and da-da-da-da. And it's only boring if all you're looking at is the end result of, well, City have won it more than anyone else in recent years. But the reality is that if you had to compile a list of, let's say, the top 5 title races in Premier League history, I think City are in at least 3 of them. They're certainly at the top, top 2 at least. Even if you look at like all the titles that City have won in the Premier League era, only one of them was a foregone conclusion, and that was the Centurion season. Every other season, there's either been a really tight title race until the last day of the season, or in the COVID year, weren't we like 8th in December or something ridiculous? So no one was even talking about us winning the Premier League at that point. And then we obviously...
Because what people are doing, people are looking at the outcome rather than the journey.
Exactly.
Yeah, it only becomes a farmers league where by December the league's done.
It's results-based analysis, and it's a very lazy way to look at it, because if every single year, let's say for a 10-year period, the top 2 teams are only separated by goal difference and they're going toe-to-toe every single step of the way, but it's the same winner each time, you'd go, oh, what a boring league, nothing happened in that decade. Well, actually, every single year was a really impressive title race. If every single season we won it by 20 points, and as you say, it was over by Christmas, fine, different conversation. But the fact is that Liverpool have won as many titles by Christmas as City have in this period. So it's just a really boring argument, and it's like, and do these people not even like realize that the Premier League was less competitive in the first decade when United won like 8 out of 11 titles. City haven't even been that dominant yet if we're looking at results-based analysis. So, yeah, it's just, as I say, it's just lazy, dead punditry and analysis by people who just like want to ride on City for no reason, because it's got to that stage where, again, it's like, you have a go at City for being rubbish, then we become good. It's like, oh, we never won the Champions League, then we win that. Oh, you haven't got any fans. Real Madrid and Marca say that it was like a cauldron at the Etihad, and I was like, oh well, it's boring. It's just like it's like what new toy, what new stick are we going to beat City with? And now it's the 1-1-5 situation. It's just boring. But I think we're used to it, City fans. To be fair, it's just jealousy at the end of the day. That's all I can think of.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. What have you got coming up, bro? You got any videos for us?
Yes. So apologies. I've not really released a video in a while. I have been quite ill the past few weeks. Apologies if I've been coughing this stream. I'm hoping I'll be well enough later today to do an analysis video on the City Brentford game. So if you would like to watch that, then go check out my YouTube channel. It's LBins, and as I say, I do tactical analysis of mainly Man City, matches.
Yeah, no, guys, it's linked in the title. Make sure you go subscribe to Nobbins, and really good tactical videos that he releases. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the stream. If you did, please make sure you drop a like on it and subscribe if you're new. At 5 o'clock, 5:30, I've got a premiere going out on the main channel. Me reacting to Savio's best goals and skills. It's our madness, guys. Make sure you're there in the premiere. It's going to pop off. But for now, I'll redirect you to Judge Mo. Judge Mo is doing a stream speaking about Phil Foden, hat-trick hero, and the title race. So feel free to go over there. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. If you did, smash a like, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next one. See you later.